in fact, over 89.9% consider themselves Taiwanese rather than Chinese. And 64% would be willing to fight to defend the country. So when Lithuania decided to rename its Taiwan office Taiwan rather than Taipei and improve relations with Taiwan, China responded by withdrawing their ambassador to Lithuania. And now they have asked the Lithuanian ambassador to leave China. On March 10th, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken told the U.S. House of Representatives Committee on Foreign Affairs that Taiwan would be invited to the summit, while praising the nation's strong democracy under technological power and global contributions. Hi, thank you for watching Jason Adam TV. If you haven't, please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and leave a comment in the comment section below. Okay, today I've got a couple of different things to talk about. First, I guess I'll start off with a report yesterday that appeared in many newspapers in Taiwan and even some overseas, claiming that a French naval ship, the FS Providence, anchored off the coast of Taiwan, the western coast of Taiwan, near Changhua County yesterday. And this article appeared in several different newspapers, including Taipei Times, Taiwan News, and today, or late last night, they retracted the story and said that there was no truth. I'll read you what Taipei Times said today. In Taipei Times today, August 13th, 2021, it says CGA, or Coast Guard Administration, denies report of French warship near Taiwan. The Coast Guard Administration yesterday said there was no truth to a social media report that a French military vessel had anchored in waters off Taiwan's coast the previous day. The radar systems at Taiwan's maritime coastal stations did not detect the presence of any French naval vessel near Taiwan on Wednesday, the Coast Guard Administration said, adding that the air and sea around the country is constantly being monitored. The Coast Guard issued the statement after New 27 Brigade, a social media fan page, on Wednesday said on Facebook that a French frigate, believed to be the FS Providence, was anchored off the west coast of Taiwan. To pinpoint the ship's alleged position, New 27 Brigade also posted a link to the site Marine Traffic, an open platform that provides real-time information on the movements of ships and their current location in harbors and ports. The Coast Guard's statement contradicted an earlier one by its central branch, which said that a French warship had indeed anchored near Taiwan on Wednesday, but the branch did not explain why. The French office in Taipei declined to comment on the report. France advocates freedom of navigation as a part of its regional policy. French office in Taipei Director Jean-Francois Casabon Massanave, I probably butchered that pronunciation, sorry, told a news conference in Taipei in March. Asked for comment by the Central News Agency, the French Ministry of Armed Forces also said there was no French naval vessel in the Taiwan Strait at the moment. Separately, China's Taiwan Affairs Office on Wednesday said that Beijing strongly objects to any form of military liaison between Taiwan and the U.S. The Taiwan Affairs Office in China said that collusion with the foreign forces is provocative and playing with fire. That is according to the Chinese state agency, the Taiwan Affairs Office. So, also interestingly enough, four Chinese fighter jets intruded upon Taiwan's air defense identification zone yesterday, Thursday, the 12th of August. And this was remarkable because they had kind of scaled back. Earlier this year, they had sent a record number of fighter jets and military planes into Taiwan's air defense identification zone. And there was such an uproar over that they scaled back, and occasionally, lately, they've been sending maybe one turboprop surveillance plane into Taiwan's air defense identification zone. But yesterday, they broke the recent trend and sent 4 fighter jets into the air defense identification zone. So it's interesting. What's interesting is that a branch of the Coast Guard initially confirmed that there was a French ship anchored off the west coast of Taiwan, and that China happened to send more planes into Taiwan's air defense identification zone than it has in several weeks. So I don't know if that's connected or not. China's upset about a lot of things right now. One of them is Lithuania. Recently, Lithuania decided to rename their office Taiwan office rather than Taipei office. And this is a big deal to Beijing because they do not want Taiwan to exist as a separate entity. They want to try to erase the name Taiwan because it delegitimizes their claim that they own Taiwan. So when Lithuania did this, it was a big deal for China. And in today's news, yesterday's news, in Taiwan News, an article titled "Recall Lithuanian Ambassador to Leave China Immediately After Finishing Quarantine." So when Lithuania decided to rename its Taiwan office Taiwan rather than Taipei and improve relations with Taiwan, China responded by withdrawing their ambassador to Lithuania. And now they have asked the Lithuanian ambassador to leave China. So in this article, it says Lithuania's ambassador to China, Diane, I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce this name, Mikavician. I'm very sorry, I've butchered the name. Says that she has no choice. So this is Lithuania's ambassador. Says that she has no choice to stay in Beijing another 3 weeks due to a mandatory 21-day quarantine, but that she will be leaving immediately afterward. The ambassador, who had just flown back to Beijing, was asked to leave the country on Wednesday, August 11th, a day after China demanded that Lithuania recall her as its ambassador. The recall is part of a diplomatic spat that has been playing out since last month when Taiwan announced that it would be setting up a representative office in the Baltic country's capital under the name Taiwanese Representative Office in Lithuania. In retaliation, the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Tuesday, August 10th, recalled the Chinese ambassador to Lithuania and requested that Lithuania do the same. The Lithuanian ambassador had just returned to Beijing when she got the message that she would have to return to Vilnius, Lithuania, as soon as possible. Quote, "I've just arrived in Beijing to be informed that I am being asked to leave," she told AFP via email Wednesday night, adding that she first has to finish a 21-day quarantine, but will be leaving once it's over and I am able to move, according to her quote. Lithuania's foreign ministry and the European Union have expressed regret over Beijing's decision. This is the first time China has recalled an ambassador from an EU member state over an issue related to Taiwan Representative Office. So this is hurting China's relations with the European Union as well. Basically, the only thing that Lithuania did is they allowed the name Taiwanese to be used to describe Taiwan's representative office in Lithuania. This is like the Taiwan's de facto embassy in Lithuania, but since most countries do not officially recognize Taiwan, Taiwan cannot have an official embassy. This all goes back to, Kissinger and Nixon deciding to formally recognize China, and of course culminated when Jimmy Carter broke official ties with Taiwan back in 1979, and most other countries followed suit. So even though Taiwan is a de facto independent country, many countries do not recognize. I think only about 15 countries worldwide recognize Taiwan as an independent country officially, and have Taiwan embassies in their country. So they did a name change for the de facto Taiwan embassy and allowed it to be called the Taiwanese Representative Office in Lithuania. And China threw a fit and ejected the Lithuanian ambassador to China. Okay, so China's upset over that. It's upset over a lot of things. Something else that's sure to upset China is that 90% of citizens in Taiwan identify as Taiwanese. This is in the August 11th Taiwan News. And it says, as tensions escalate between China and Taiwan, a new poll found that nearly 90% of respondents consider themselves Taiwanese, while only 8.7% think of themselves as Chinese. The latest poll by the Taiwan New Constitution Foundation, which was released at a press conference on Tuesday, August 10th, found that 89.9% of Taiwan's citizens consider themselves Taiwanese. In addition, it found that over 64% of Taiwanese are willing to go to war to defend the country. This is a pretty significant number because this shows a very huge shift in political ideas from the older generation to the younger generation. The older generation, which is dying off now, many of them actually migrated from China back in around 1949 when the Kuomintang came here. When they figured out they were losing the civil war in China. And those people, the people who migrated directly from mainland China, back around 1949, they still thought that they were Chinese, and they thought, that one day the two sides would reunite and they would go back to their homeland. But the young generation, and I've mentioned this before, they've grown up under democracy, a very robust democracy, and they have no ties to China. And they do not want to be governed by the Communist Party. So as the older generation dies off, you can see it in the poll numbers. In fact, over 89.9% consider themselves Taiwanese rather than Chinese. And 64% would be willing to fight to defend the country. So these are important numbers, and this is probably the biggest pushback against China by the citizens of Taiwan. And you can't blame them, because what has China been doing? They have been angering the citizens of Taiwan by basically saying you have no say. China is trying to tell Taiwan, you have no say in your future. You know, resistance is futile, like the Borg on Star Trek. And the more they try to interfere in Taiwan's internal affairs, the angrier the Taiwanese people become. So it has reached the point to where, you know, and given the way that China has treated Hong Kong, it's reached the point where it's impossible for Taiwan and China to reunite, or to unite, not reunite, to unite without war. Is not going to happen peacefully as long as the Communist Party is in charge of the government in China, which looks to be for quite a while. Okay, so so another issue that's coming up on the horizon is that Taiwan is going to join, or trying to join, a U.S. democracy virtual summit. And of course, China has been saber rattling over this. So in the Taipei Times article dated today, August 13th, Taiwan seeks to join U.S.'s democracy meet. It says Taiwan is pursuing an invitation to the U.S.'s Summit for Democracy in December, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said yesterday, promising to share developments once decisions are verified. The comments follow a White House announcement on Wednesday that U.S. President Joe Biden is to convene a virtual meeting of global democratic leaders on December 9th and 10th. Through open dialogue among invitees, including heads of state, civics groups, and business leaders, the summit aims to collectively strengthen the foundation for democratic renewal, the White House said in a statement. The primary focus of the summit is defending against authoritarianism, fighting corruption, and promoting respect for human rights, it said, adding that another one would be held after a year to showcase progress made towards these commitments. Taiwan shares these values and would strive to defend them along with the U.S. and other like-minded nations, Department of North American Affairs Deputy Director General Regine Chen told a regular news conference on in Taipei on Thursday. Although the list of invitees has not yet been announced, there is reason to believe that an invitation for Taiwan is forthcoming. On March 10th, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken told the U.S. House of Representatives Committee on Foreign Affairs that Taiwan would be invited to the summit, while praising the nation's strong democracy under technological power and global contributions. Also on Wednesday this week, Taiwan, the U.S., Japan, and Australia for the first time co-hosted a virtual workshop on green energy under the Global Cooperation and Training Framework. So this has made China angry. In the tabloid state news, Global Times, which is under the auspices of the Chinese government, this article was published yesterday, August 12th. It says, U.S.-Taiwan crossing the red line will create historic opportunity for PLA fighter jets to fly over the island. Of course, this is an editorial in a paper that's known for its bombastic statements. On Wednesday, the White House announced that U.S. President Joe Biden will bring together leaders from a diverse group of the world's democracies at a virtual summit for democracy to be followed in roughly a year's time by a second in-person summit. The summit will take place on December 9th and 10th. Analysis from the many media outlets suggests that this is another move by the Biden administration to counter China. The article goes on to say that the U.S. needs to follow apex practices if it wants to invite Taiwan. Otherwise, the summit will be a severe escalation of intervening in the Taiwan question, which, by the way, is not a question. It's a fact that Taiwan is independent. Getting back to the article in the Global Times, it says the Chinese mainland will never sit back and tolerate the U.S. and the island of Taiwan break the bottom line. Sick. By then, there will be unprecedented storms in the Taiwan Straits. So basically, China is threatening war over a virtual summit on democracy. They ejected the Lithuanian ambassador because Lithuania decided to change the name of the de facto Taiwan embassy in Lithuania. So these are the signs of a very irrational government, extremely irrational and becoming more irrational by the day. We can no longer appease such irrationality. And we have found out over decades of appeasement that appeasement doesn't work with China. And it never will. Also, I saw another article that's sure to anger China on Taiwan. This was in Focus Taiwan CNA English News, dated August 11th. It says that U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth proposed a partnership program between the U.S. National Guard and Taiwan's armed forces to help strengthen the island's defense capabilities. She was speaking at an event hosted by the Washington-based Center for Strategic and International Studies. She said she was concerned about China's threats against Taiwan and Taiwan's defense capabilities. She thinks that Taiwan's defense capabilities need to be increased in order to deter Beijing from attempting invasion. According to Senator Duckworth, one way of creating effective deterrence is to build a habitual relationship between the U.S. National Guard and Taiwan's defense forces. The article points out that Senator Duckworth is herself a war veteran who previously served as Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. So I think that China is shooting itself in the foot. It's closing itself off for fear of being influenced by democratic countries. Is passing regulations that stifle free trade and business, international business. Is laws in Hong Kong, as security laws, could lead Hong Kong banks to be in a catch-22 situation between Western countries who invest quite a bit of money in Hong Kong and have in the past, and the Chinese government, who could shut down the banks if they don't adhere to the dictates of the Communist Party. So China is really pushing the limits here, and I've argued before, we don't need China to do business. We might be in some short-term pain, but that would be nothing compared to the pain if we, suddenly cut off China because we have to go to war against them. So I think it would be, very useful to start limiting business with China, because that's what they're doing. They are making their own kind of hermit kingdom because they are afraid of, the effects of diplomacy on the power of the Communist Party. That's the bottom line. They are terrified that their own people one day will demand democracy. And it would be rather hard to put 2 billion people in prison. So yeah, they're throwing a fit right now. We need to show them a united front, and that the loss that they will endure if they try to go to war with the Western world would be much greater for them than if they become democratic in the future. But they're not thinking rationally, so we might be in for a war in the near future. Okay, thank you for watching Jason Adam TV. If you haven't, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave comments in the section below. Bye-bye.
Em tươi này